Oh, man. Just hit the microphone. Hope that didn't blast out anybody's ears. Guys, Nancy Guthrie has been missing for over 6 weeks now. We're in week 7. And I was reading today in the news looking for new information and came across an article that I thought was absolutely fascinating and maybe a big hint on how we might be able to solve this crime. I'm doing the royal we, law enforcement really is what I mean. How law enforcement might be able to solve this crime. We may be able to get all the way to the end of this case and know what happened. So if that interests you, stick around. We're going to talk about it. This video contains mature themes and discussions intended only for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
This conversation is brought to you by Once Upon a Trial, a new children's book by Corey Richens' ghostwriter. The reviews are in. The New York Crimes calls Once Upon a Trial, "What the huh?" And the Washington Compost says, "A bold choice was made," repeatedly. Read the book Absurdist describes as a bedtime story that somehow requires a cross-examination. Once Upon a Trial, available exclusively in evidence lockers near you.
You may have noticed that I put a goal on this live stream. I'm hoping for those of you who are watching the YouTube live stream that we can reach that goal, because if we do, I happen to have in my fingers right here the 30-page manuscript of the new children's book, Once Upon a Trial, by Corey Richens' ghostwriter, that I promise to you that I will read at the end of this if we can reach 10 super chats. Guys, welcome to another true crime conversation with me, Gavin Fish. I'm so glad that you joined me wherever you're joining me from. Be sure to tell me in the comments where you're joining me from. Bonus points for those of you who can do so in a creative way. Extra bonus points for those of you who can stump me. And Robin is leading us off with our first super chat. Thank you very much, Robin. Robin obviously would like me to read Once Upon a Trial by Corey Richens' ghostwriter. I'm going to give you a little. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. You ready? Once upon a time, there was a woman who liked big things, big plans, big houses, big ideas, very big ideas. And that's it. That's page 1. It's a children's book. I'm not reading War and Peace here. But yeah, oh my goodness, we've got number 2 has come to give us the old super chat. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. Hopefully we will get to our goal. Thank you very much. Sarah says she's joining from the Circle City Crossroads of America, Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you very much. Nikki, happy St. Patrick's Day to you. She says, happy St. Patrick's Day from the Scent of Paradise Island of Bermuda. Gavin, where's the like button? I don't know. I don't know where the like button is, man. Greetings from Southwest Scotland, UK. Awesome. Sammy's mom, I'm from a city that gets assumed to be in Canada, but it's in the US. Is it because it's such a polite and gleeful city? Is that what people think? Let me guess. Hold on. Oh, why am I blanking? It's right on the border there, British Columbia. I'm blanking right now. Let's see. Marie Jubenville, thank you very much for the super chat. I want to have you read the manuscript. She says, Salisbury, Tennessee is in the house, a town of 82 people. County Meath from Ireland. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Glad you are here. From the Green Chili State. Today rhymes with Turtle Peach. I know, I've stumped you. Could it be Myrtle Beach? Oh, I think I got it. North Carolina is in the house. Northern British Columbia is in the house. Houston, Kentucky. It's Vancouver. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Southeastern Kentucky is in the house. Natalie McPhee with the super chat asking, is it based on Corey? Well, it is Once Upon a Trial by Corey Richens' ghostwriter. Let's see if I can get you a photo of the cover of the book here. There it is, Once Upon a Trial, a story about truth and choices. Of course, the news is that after 3 hours of deliberations, the jury there in Summit County, Utah, came back with a guilty verdict on Corey Richens. And I noticed that Pat put together that the sentencing day in May is on Eric's birthday, which I think is apropos, pretty awesome. Of course, we're talking about Nancy tonight, but let me just kind of get through the old where you guys are coming in from. Orchid says cloggies and cheese. Oh my goodness. Home of the Pilgrims in the 12 years immediately before the Mayflower. Wow. Elverson, PA in the house. Upstate New York is here. New York, snowy Wisconsin. Watching from Belgium. Sydney, Australia is here. Montana is here. I did not figure out the Moonbow clue. Cumberland Falls, Corbin, Kentucky. Thank you very much. Meadowbrook, Alabama got snowed on yesterday. Yeah, we got snowed on here in Western PA yesterday too. I made a little trip up to Walmart to get a couple things. I think I was getting manila envelopes. And yeah, what normally takes me 15 minutes to get there took me about 35. It's pretty crazy. Bobby McRae, thank you very much for the super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. What is it? Tiata Sturgeon says, where I-79 and I-80 cross, right there in Mercer County. I know that very well. Manchester is in the house. Gardnerville. I love the Minden-Gardnerville area. Very cool. Wendy says, sorry, I'm broke, but I'm from the Rock. Yeah. Don't give a super chat if you can't, if you're not in a place to do it right now. Okay. It's totally, totally cool. From the Rock. So like the middle of the San Francisco Bay, is that what we're talking about? Lexington, North Carolina is here. San Jose, California. Long Beach. I've been thinking about Long Beach today because one of the questions from 3 questions came in and it reminded me of Long Beach. What do we have? We have Sensei Wackadoodle with another super chat. Hello, Gavin. Maybe she can do a second book. Once Upon a Trial, Someone's in Denial. Oh, very good. Very good. Love it. And Beth, thank you very much for the super chat. You guys are taking care of me. Thank you so much. Okay, let us bring up the case that we're talking about today. This is the case of Nancy Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie, of course, being the 84-year-old mother of Savannah Guthrie, the co-host of NBC's Today Show that went missing on February 1st. She was last seen on January 31st. It is believed that she was abducted. We have seen videos and images of suspects in her abduction, and the article that I saw today interviewed a genetic genealogist who had a very interesting take that I think only a trained digital forensics person and a genetic genealogist, not digital forensics, a forensics person and a DNA person would get. And the image that that she talks about is this one right here. The image where he has gone up to the Nest camera, he has kind of fiddled with it. He goes back out, grabs some of the greenery, the shrubbery, and comes back to the camera. It looks like he's just trying to cover it up or something like that. But look in his mouth. In his mouth is a flashlight, right? That did not mean anything to me before reading this article, other than he held his flashlight in his mouth, something that I have done a million times. Gavin, that is an exaggeration. Gavin, I swear, guys, I exaggerate like a billion times a day. I need to stop doing that, right? Need to stop doing that. But it's something that I have done, you have probably done, we all have done multiple times, carry a flashlight or something like that in our in our mouths. Now, what happens when something like that is in our mouth? We have to take it out, right? And we hold it, and we may put it in our pocket, and we may like touch the doorknob or touch something else. And what has been deposited, even though I'm wearing gloves? Ye old DNA. So let's get into that, shall we? Let's and thank you guys. Continue to check in on where you're from. I'm seeing some cool stuff. Hi from the oldest continuously inhabited European settlement in the U.S. Wow. And then sneaking in late from wintry cold Ohio. Wonder what that European settlement is. What I'm guessing it would be in the Northeast somewhere, but I don't know. Thank you very much for being here. Okie dokie, come with me, if you will, over to Ye Ol' Acrobat. This was published in Parade on parade.com, written by Michelle Stein. The headline reads, Nancy Guthrie update, forensics expert shares gut feeling about how FBI can identify suspect. Of course, I've already kind of given it away, but this, again, Michelle Stein writes, today, co-anchor Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy Guthrie, remains missing over 6 weeks after her abduction. And a forensics expert recently shared a gut feeling and advice to the FBI that could help identify a suspect. During an appearance on the News Nation podcast, The Truth of the Matter, journalist Natasha, I don't know how to pronounce Natasha's last name. Is it Zuvez or Zuvs? I'm very sorry, Natasha. I have not watched the podcast, and that is on me. I should have done that. Spoke with genetic genealogist CeCe Moore, star of the ABC documentary series The Genetic Detective. What is your gut telling you about the Nancy Guthrie case? Natasha asked. To that, Moore insisted, I would still go back and re-swab parts of that house and look for even like a rootless hair. We can solve these cases now with just a rootless hair. She added, I find it very hard to believe the perpetrator didn't leave his DNA behind. We think he had the bite flashlight in his mouth, and I doubt that he kept it in his mouth for the full 40 minutes or so that he was there. Moore then pointed out, as careful as he was to try to not leave his DNA, he would have taken that out of his mouth, and he would have immediately had his DNA all over the outside of that glove. Let's bring up that picture again. Which one is it? This one. And he had to have touched something. CeCe Moore, you are so brilliant, so smart. The article continues. Additionally, Moore shared that cases have been solved with, quote, really old DNA. Quote, DNA is actually pretty hardy, she said. And so I believe if they haven't collected his DNA, it is still at that crime scene somewhere, and they should revisit it, even though it's been open to the family, because you can still rule out the people that have been there. That's a fascinating thing. I hadn't thought about that. A genetics expert, a forensics genetics expert would see this photo and go, oh, he's got a flashlight in his mouth. I bet he touched that flashlight, then it would be all over his gloves. So smart. Oh my goodness. I love that there are smarter people in the world than me. And of course, there are probably close to 7 billion of those. But oh my goodness, I am just so glad for smart people. Recently, Moore also speculated about the possibility of a second crime scene and how that could help solve Nancy's case. The 84-year-old was last seen at her home, blah, 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 blah. No suspect has been publicly named. I'm curious about that second crime scene. Let me open this up real quick. Let's see. I'm just going to read about this. Okay, look, I'm going to bring you over to this. This is also on parade.com, also written by Michelle Stein. And this was written on, it was yesterday. So during an appearance on the News Nation podcast, The Truth of the Matter, with Natasha, she spoke to CeCe Moore. Quote, I don't even like to think of this, but if there's a second crime scene that is discovered or her, remains, then that gives them another opportunity for DNA. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Got it. Oh gosh, there definitely is. There definitely is a second crime scene, at least a secondary crime scene, because she was taken somewhere, and she probably was taken elsewhere after that. I'm starting to kind of come around to the idea that she may have been wrapped up when she was taken out of the house. If she was taken out through that front entrance, which I believe she was, that's where the blood spatter was. But still, secondary crime scene would be a car or a vehicle, a van, a truck, something like that, where she was moved. A tertiary crime scene might be a place where she was kept alive. There might even be a fourth crime scene, though I hate to think about stuff like that. I just hate to think about it, but where her remains might be. Tell me what you guys think, and let me check in to your comments here real quick. We're still 6 out of 10, but we got plenty of time. We're going to hit this goal. We're going to hit the goal so that I can read Once Upon a Trial by Corey Richens Ghostwriter, a children's book that, funnily enough, has come out just today, the day after Corey Richens was convicted of murdering her husband, Eric Richens. I kind of feel like celebrating, though there's no celebration it's not appropriate, right? Eric is still dead. There's no happy endings here. Those three boys still don't have their father. They don't have their mother, though I would argue that they're better off without their mother, which is just a sad, sad state of affairs. Yeah. There's no reason to celebrate this, but I am glad that at least justice is, we have come as close to justice as we can in this life. Moonbow is Kentucky, says Penguin. All right. Mariana from Portwine Land. Zuvez, or Zuvs, is how we say that? I'm sorry. Melody says, I'm hilarious. Thank you very much. Jacksonville is in the house. Elizabeth says she said this on the interview room as well. She's very intelligent. I got to get Cece on. You know what I need, guys? Let me tell you what I need. I need a volunteer booking producer. I really do. I have found that I am no good at finding guests and booking guests. I need somebody who can do that. Someone who can do that. Emmy adds that Natasha is from the Bay Area. Bay Area is a cool place. Marie says the police should have taken the doormat since this guy stood on it. Yeah. Scotch's mom, you mean we can't have a celebration of trial? We can be happy. We can be glad that she was convicted, but Eric remains dead, and that is sad. Very, very sad. Okay, this next article is the first one that I have read that talks about internal problems that investigators are facing beyond kind of the stuff that we have seen in the case with Sergeant Cross, for example, not really liking Sheriff Nanos. And it's from what appears to be a pretty new publication. It's called Altitudes Magazine. I don't know their deal very well, but I thought that it was an interesting article that I scanned. It's written by Natalie Brooks. Headline, Nancy Guthrie investigation now fighting internal problems investigators never saw coming. More than a month after 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Tucson home, the investigation into her whereabouts has taken a troubling turn. Allegations of evidence tampering, information leaks, and coordination failures between agencies are now casting shadows over the search for the missing mother of Today's Show host, Savannah Guthrie. What began as a straightforward missing person case has evolved into something far more complex, with investigators facing growing scrutiny about how key parts of the investigation may have been handled. And you guys know I've said this multiple times, Sheriff Nanos is a politician. Sheriff is an elected position. And some of his behavior may be may be a result of incentives that he has because of his position to be a politician. And that may have hosed things up. Okay, investigators facing growing scrutiny about key parts of the investigation, how they're handled. While authorities maintain the case remains active and targeted, behind the scenes concerns are reshaping how the entire investigation is being viewed. The emotional toll on the Guthrie family, oh man, became publicly visible when Savannah Guthrie made her return to the Today Show earlier this month, telling viewers, "I don't know how to come back, but I don't know how not to." Okay, investigation faces mounting questions about evidence handling. The Nancy Guthrie case has entered what investigators describe as a, quote, more complicated phase, close quote, with new leads emerging alongside serious concerns about investigative procedures. The allegations of irregularities have created a dual challenge for law enforcement, pursuing fresh evidence while addressing questions about the reliability of early findings. Sources familiar with the investigation, of course, I don't like single sources. I don't like unnamed sources, but sometimes, this is the world we live in. Sources familiar with the investigation point to specific concerns about evidence tampering and unauthorized information leaks that have potentially compromised the integrity of the search efforts. These issues have reportedly affected coordination between multiple agencies involved in the case. It's drawn national attention, yada yada. However, the focus has increasingly shifted from the search itself to questions about how the search has been conducted. Okay, I'm going to go through, I'm not going to go through the timelines of the case, impact on family. Let's skip down to what these allegations mean for the search. The concerns about evidence tampering and information leaks create significant implications for the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie. When investigative procedures come under question, it can affect everything from the admissibility of evidence to the reliability of leads and witness cooperation. Coordination failures between agencies can lead to duplicated efforts, missed opportunities, and confusion about roles and responsibilities. In a case where time is critical, these issues can have serious consequences for the effectiveness of search efforts. The unauthorized release of information can also compromise investigative strategies and potentially alert individuals who might have information relevant to the case. This type of leak can fundamentally alter how an investigation proceeds. There's a link to this article if you want to read the whole thing. It's just, it's very interesting to me that, at least according to Natalie Brooks here, there's just so much fighting for attention internally, according to her sources, I guess. Makes me wonder how much of that attention could be diverted to the actual investigation of the missing person, Nancy Guthrie. Let's see. Let's get over to your comments here real quick. Emmy asks, Gavin, who do you want to book? Actually, that's the key thing, Emmy, is that if I were to get someone working with me as a booking producer, and by the way, I could hire a booking producer. I just don't have the funds to do it. I'm not making enough money on this to do that. I even know a booking producer who is willing to cut me a big break, and even then, I can't afford it. But part of the booking producer's job is to coordinate with me to figure out who, right? We're talking about this. Who is it that's out there that we could talk to, right? A lot of people are willing to make phone calls on my behalf or send emails on my behalf, but a booking producer would do way more than that. Mariana is from Porto. Hey, Porto is where my wife and I visited this past summer. It was really quite a lot of fun. Patty says, I agree. I felt like celebrating last night, also celebrating justice for Eric and his family. Yes, indeed. Marie, welcome to Fanatic. Thank you for joining. Hello from Hub City. Hub City. Don't know where that is. You've stumped me on that one. Honestly, though, I don't want to take wind out of your sails, but it turns out that I'm not very good at guessing where people are from when they tell me. where they're from, but I give you the bonus points. Extra, extra, extra bonus points. Elizabeth Masters is saying, what information is leaked? I feel like we don't know much of anything. Yeah, that is something that is missing from the article. What specifically leaked? Maybe I yada yada past it. Let me go back over here to the timeline. What'd they say? Alleged tampering incidents, unauthorized leaks reported. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say specifically, and I kind of feel like we've been left in the dark on a lot of things. I do think that Sheriff Nanos probably let out too much in the beginning, and the blood spatter was probably something that we probably never should have seen. Would be something that I would think of. That whole thing where they got thumbnails of images from the other camera, but there's nothing on them. That's something we probably shouldn't have known. I mean, the perpetrators shouldn't know that. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Maybe you can come up with something a little bit better than I have. The last one I wanted to read for you today about this case before we move on to 3 questions and headlines is an article from Mike Ruiz, who is a friend of mine. I think he's awesome. He writes beautifully for Fox News. They typically publish in Fox Digital, but Michael writes, retired canine officer says cadaver dogs should be used in Nancy Guthrie case. Okay, a retired canine officer is raising questions about the public handling of the Nancy Guthrie case, arguing that the decision not to deploy cadaver dogs, quote, defies logic, close quote, as the investigation stretches into its 7th week with few answers. Quote, we're just chasing shadows, said Michael Gould, a former canine investigator with the NYPD and Nassau County Police Department. Still, he told Fox News Digital that it's very likely investigators are following up on leads behind closed doors and maybe farther along than observers think. I hope so, because out of the 6+ weeks that we've been following this case, man, at least 5.5 of those have just been in the phase of criticism. Nobody knows what you're doing. What are you doing? What are you doing? And anyway, quote, cadaver dogs are human remains detection dogs. They are the primary technology available to humans to detect odor of missing people, he said Tuesday. They're considered in court a scientific instrument. So why the sheriff chose not to use them, I don't understand. That is a quote from Mr. Gould. Guthrie, we know that. The Pima County Sheriff's Department, like many local law enforcement agencies around the country, does not have its own cadaver dogs. They borrowed canines from the local Border Patrol office earlier in the case, but are no longer deploying them as part of the investigation. Quote, there's only 2 assumptions, 2 implications here, that A, she's still alive, so no need to search for a cadaver when there isn't one. Continuing the quote, or B, they've given up searching for her, Gould said. He called on the sheriff to either deploy them in a pattern search or explain why that's not happening. Quote, I stretch my head to think without him guiding us, giving us answers to this, I can't think of any other rationale why you would say you're putting cadaver dogs on hold, Gould said. It defies logic. Nanos, for his part, told Fox News Digital earlier that if he deemed they were needed, he'd send them back out. He declined to discuss specific leads or evidence. I really feel like Nanos shouldn't be the lead, shouldn't be the guy that decides on this. It should be the FBI. It really should. I mean, after this much time, you got to assume she's outside of Arizona. So it's interstate, man. FBI should be in charge of this. Quote, anything is possible, he said when asked if he believed Guthrie is still alive. However, with the investigation dragging on for more than 40 days, Gould said the case does not fit the profile of an abduction. Interesting. Quote, after 6 weeks without proof of life, without anything else, the family has come to terms with the fact, I think, that this is a homicide investigation and it's got to be treated like that, he said. Wow, he came out and just said it. Most of us kind of beat around the bush because we don't want it to be a homicide investigation. Continuing Mike's article, in a heartbreaking Instagram video posted last month, Savannah Guthrie thanked millions of supporters for their prayers and acknowledged that her mother may no longer be alive. Let's see if there's any. Let's see. 2 men were briefly detained as separate warrants were being served in connection with the case. Both were released without charges. The most recent was on February 13th after the FBI towed his Range Rover from a Culver's parking lot and raided his mother's home, which is about 2 miles from Guthrie's. Quote, it was considered a kidnapping, so they were investigating as a life and death situation. That's why they executed a lot of search warrants that people questioned the legitimacy of the search warrant, Gould said. But if you're thinking of the fact that somebody might still be alive and being held hostage, it's different than a homicide investigation. If there's tips coming in, it's not a cold case, Gould said. I feel confident that this is going to be a solve, but not on our timeline. Tips could come in from someone in jail, a relative of the suspect, a romantic partner, or even an accomplice, he said. Quote, very rarely is there any one person that knows what happened. Only one person that knows what happened, Gould told Fox News Digital. And although a mixed DNA sample is still undergoing analysis in a private lab in Florida, he predicts that genetics will play a key role in cracking the case, like we heard from Cece. It's going to be resolved, he said, and people are going to be surprised by the outcome of it. And then, of course, there's a combined reward of more than $1.2 million. The family is asking anybody with leads to call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. What do you guys think? Is this a homicide investigation now? Is this no longer an abduction, a kidnapping, a missing person? Is this homicide now? Maybe my brain just needs to accept that, and I'm not ready to. Mariana says, Gavin, did you notice that the suspect appears to have a cyst next to his left eye? Let's see, his left. Yeah, I wonder if that is. Let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. I can't tell if that is like an artifact of the lighting, of the low quality digital image. But I see what you're saying on that left eye, which is on the right as we're looking at him. I can't tell. I cannot tell, but great comment. Let's see what else is you guys are saying over here. Not a lot. Aris 3 Riss says, Aris 3 Riss says, oh yes, please, Corey poetry. Guys, if we want to read Once Upon a Trial, I have the manuscript right here. I have contacts. I have contacts in publishing. I got this manuscript. It's riveting. But I think we're at 6 super chats out of 10 that we need in order to reach our goal and read Once Upon a Trial. And I'm gonna have to stand my ground on this. By the way, while we're talking about this, for those of you who like to watch on Spotify and you're part of the Rewatch crew, I encourage you to go over to Spotify to watch my live streams. I put them live directly after. As soon as we're done here, I upload them to Spotify. Building up a Spotify following is really, really important to the future of the channel. And if you are on Spotify, I upload them as videos there, so you can watch the whole video. There's always a link down in the description below so that you can see me over there on Spotify. Let's see. Going back over to the right, let's find couple more comments here. We got IGG Rocks coming in. I think that's number 7. Oppenheimer says Nancy is still alive. I hope so. Elizabeth says, with her age and health issues, I think it's a homicide investigation, unfortunately. And Meredith says 900 viewers. Yeah, we're getting up there. That's a good show. And thank you very much for watching, everybody. Deeply appreciate it. Vermont is checking in. Glad you're here. Graham Pam says, I think she's passed away. It's I think I just need to wrap my head around it. Cooler by the Lake coming in with number 7. Thank you very much, Cooler by the Lake. Appreciate that. Or number 8, maybe. I think that's number 8. We're only 2 away. I'm going to allow them. The goal itself isn't updating. It's saying 6 out of 10 instead of 8 out of 10 because it needs to be the teal level. But that's okay. I'm going to allow it. Gotta be pliable in there. We've had 8. We're going to call it 8. Okay. While I guess that's all I have for you on this case. Let's see. Fran Carrier comes in, says, I believe they have someone under close surveillance and are making sure they have enough for a warrant and an arrest that will stick for a conviction. Just Ducky coming in, saying there's one more. We just have one more. I think that is number 9. So, guys, we're close. Thank you very much. Thank you. So that is our update on the Nancy, wrong button, Gavin. That is the update on the Nancy Guthrie case for now. Why don't we move on over into the next segment, which is 3 questions. Here we go.
It's 3 questions with Gavin Fish.
Okie dokie. In this segment, if you are new to my game, my little channel, my little shtickaroo, in this segment, I answer 3 of your questions. I answer them honestly. I answer them completely. Nothing is off the table. Everything is on the table. You just need to email me your question or questions. Send me 1 or 100. I don't care. At 3questions@gavinfish.com. It's spelled out THREE questions@gavinfish.com. And I solemnly promise that I will indeed answer them. Now, I get to choose the order in which I answer the questions. Okay? That's the deal. So, and hang on, just one seckaroo. Look at this. IGG Rocks coming in clutch. We got our goal. And hopefully, keep going, guys, because I'm going to accept it as the goal. YouTube is saying it's 8 out of 10 because we had a couple that were below the teal level, but that's okay. We're going to accept it. Thank you very much. Marie Jubenville coming in with a happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you very much. Deeply appreciate that. Goodness, you guys are taking care of me, and I appreciate it. Okay, where are we going? We are going to this screen right here. Question number 1. The questions that I like the best are the ones that you guys can answer too. So if you have an answer to any of the questions, just put GF in your comment and tell me your answer. Okay, I want to know. Barb asks, Gavin, do you write any fiction? You are a great storyteller. Barb, thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate that. I have never written any fiction. In fact, I have never completed a book, though I am working on one right now. It is not a fiction piece. It is nonfiction. But I will hopefully be finishing that book before the end of the year and get it into my publisher. And hopefully it will be published in 2027. But fiction? No. The problem is I don't really understand the story arc, like how to create. The latest novel that I have read, I just finished it like a week ago. I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I had never read that in my life. I'm sure that it was required reading. I'm sure that I BS'd my way through it in school. But I read To Kill a Mockingbird and I was just blown away. Now, of course, this is the great American novel, right? This is Harper Lee's only work published during her lifetime. And it is amongst the greatest pieces that has ever been written. So comparing myself to Harper Lee is so much of a stretch. It is it's just not even funny. But as I was reading it, I'm like, dang it, she is so good at telling this story. And I don't know if you've read To Kill a Mockingbird. It is amazing, but the last scene after she walks Boo Radley home and she talks about how this was the last time she ever saw him, and she turns around on the porch to walk back over to her house, and she can see all of the scenes that have taken place on that street throughout the entire book, and she just rattles them off, right? All the way until she sees, she sees Atticus drop his glasses and shoot the dog, and she sees, Boo coming to the defense of her and Jim as she's in her little ham costume. It's like all of those little vignettes. It was so beautiful and so amazing. I just don't even know how. I just don't even know how. However, I do have, and actually, one of the things about To Kill a Mockingbird is it is based on Harper Lee's life, right? She wrote that. It's fiction, but she wrote it based on the things that she saw. So I think that might be the best, I guess, material to work from. And I have had some pretty darn interesting experiences in my 50 plus years. Thank you for that question, Barb. Next question comes in from Natalie or Natale. I think it's probably Natalie. Have you ever been to Toronto? If so, any most memorable places in the city? Natalie, I have been to Toronto. However, not for very long. Actually, I have to check this. I have to check the map. Please give me a second. I believe I've been to Toronto. Yeah. Yes, I have been to Toronto. I no, I have never been to Toronto. I just went to the Niagara Falls side of Canada. This is what happened. We have a type 1 diabetic son. He's grown up now, but when we moved to Western Pennsylvania, the amount of effort that it took to change from our California-based insurance to Pennsylvania-based insurance got us to the point where we were low on insulin and couldn't source it, period. Paying cash for it or not, we could not source it. And somebody told me go to Canada, and I full on did. I took advantage of the Canadian healthcare system. I drove to Canada and I picked up like 6 weeks worth of insulin, and that got us through. So no, I did not drive all the way around Lake Ontario to where you are. Actually, did I? I feel like I've been to Toronto, but I don't think I did. I don't think I made it all the way there. That in Canada, the city that I have visited the most is Montreal. And let's see, where else have I been? I've been to Vancouver, but I used to go to Montreal quite a bit. I need to spend more time in Canada, obviously. Thank you for your question, Natalie. Hey, if anybody's been to Toronto, tell me some great places to visit. Last question. Are there any songs that you associate with particular memories? This gets me back to Long Beach. Yes. So many songs. Oh my goodness. There are so many songs that I that I associate with particular memories. When I was a kid, a senior in high school, because I was a total nerd, I went with the other nerds, and I'm saying this with love, right? This is who we were. It was the smart kids, the overachievers. and me hanging out. We went down to Long Beach for a yearbook convention where we competed in this national thing. I was out walking about in Long Beach with our crowd. I think there were 7 or 8 of us. I remember it very, very well because we were hungry. We were looking for a place outside of the hotel to eat. And there was a place called Mama Tina's Cucina. I checked to see if Mama Tina is still open. It is not. Of course, this was 93 when I was there, so it's been a while. What is that? That's 53 years, not 53, 33 years? Goodness sake. Anyway, and when we found Mama Tina's Cucina, somebody in our group, I think it was my buddy Eric, called it a hole in the wall. And that is the very first time I remember ever hearing the phrase a hole in the wall. Now, years later, as I was really getting into not early rock and roll, let's call it 70s rock and roll, earlier than my life rock and roll. I heard the song Can't You See by Marshall Tucker Band, which I know, Mooney, you saw live. But there's a part in that song that says, I'm going to find me a hole in the wall. I'm going to crawl inside and die. Right. Every time I hear that verse of the song, I think about eating an Italian dinner at a hole in the wall in Long Beach, California. It is one of my favorite memories with some of my favorite people. But that's what came to me when you asked this question. There are so many others, like a lot of my memories that have to do with songs. I associate with the dances I was at when I heard those songs, when I was a kid. I grew up, I started high school in 1989. I graduated in 1993. So junior high to through high school was the late 80s, early 90s. There was lots of dances, lots of those things. And so like, when I listened to, Somebody by Depeche Mode, the one that was the live recording, right? So you can hear the crowd in the background. It's a very good recording. That's the one that would be played at dances, and I always associate that with Diana Nicholson. I thought she was the best. In fact, Diana, if you're watching now, I know Diana doesn't live very far from me, and I am in touch with her, and I was in love with her when I was like in 8th and 9th grades. I just have some of the most fond memories of that with Diana and other girls, right? A lot of those old songs. What's another one? One that became popular was Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. Why did that become so popular? That was in a movie or something, right? That wasn't Dirty Dancing or something like, but it became popular. And so that would be played at the dances. And yeah, I guess what else? Oh, like there's a song from Maná called Vivir Sin Aire. And when I listen to that song, I'm taken back to the very first time I heard that walking in a barrio in Chacabuco, Cordoba, Argentina. And I heard the song. I thought it was gorgeous. I stopped and listened to it, and yeah, I was feeling that at the time. I was 6,000 miles away from the person that I loved the most, and I remember thinking, oh, I would love to be able to live without air. Right, because that would be easier than what I'm doing right now. They're just so many. What was the song that was playing when I finally had the courage to? Oh, it was the moment where I was like, okay, this is the beginning of my life with Kimberly, and it was another one of those songs. It was like, oh, I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but it was one of those slow songs from the 80s that was being played where we were, and we were dancing, and I'm blanking on it right now. But that was the moment that my life with Kimberly began. And We were engaged, shortly after that, and married shortly after that, started our family shortly after that. It's just, yeah, music is magic. It's magic. Can't wait to hear how you guys answer this question. I want to be specific. Well, I gave you a specific answer. The Marshall Tucker Band, right? Can't you see? Want to crawl inside and die. Find me a hole in the wall, crawl inside and die. While you guys are telling me your answers to those questions, let's check out some headlines.
True crime headlines.
Okie dokie. I'm going to bring you back over to the Corey Richins trial. Let me zoom up on this real quick. I can bring you into it. This from the New York Times. Link in the description below. Corey Richins found guilty of poisoning her husband in Utah murder trial. A Utah mother of 3 who wrote a children's book. She did not write Once Upon a Trial. Her ghostwriter wrote Once Upon a Trial. She wrote Are You With Me, or whatever it was. She didn't even write that. That's a stretch, New York Times. Who wrote a children's book about grief after her husband's death was found guilty of his murder on Monday evening. Corey Richins, 35, was also found guilty of attempted murder, 2 counts of falsifying insurance claims and forgery, in what prosecutors argued was a scheme for Ms. Richins to poison her husband, Eric Richins, 39, and inherit more than $4 million. She had also opened multiple life insurance policies on her husband without his knowledge, totaling about $2 million, prosecutors argued. Ms. Richins, who hung her head as the verdict was read, faces 25 years to life in prison. Her sentencing is scheduled for May 13th. The jury took less than 3 hours to deliberate after 3 weeks of testimony from 40 witnesses. Ms. Richins waived her right to testify, and her lawyers did not call any witnesses. About a year after Ms. Richins' death, Ms. Richins published Are You With Me?, a children's book she said she wrote to help her 3 boys process the loss, and it promoted it on a local station. And then it goes through, why. The motive was money. It was money, and that's the way it was. This was written, actually, I found it on Yahoo, but it's from the Globe. This one is rather, what am I trying? Let's zoom up on this so you can see it. This is rather tabloid, but we haven't had an update on Nick Reiner in a bit. This is written by Doug Montero. Link to it in the description. Nick Reiner considering writing a tell-all to offer his side of the story after parents' murders. I don't know how much I believe this, but I thought I'd share it with you. Nick Reiner, and you can tell by the way it's written, right? This is not serious journalism. This is pretty tabloid, so we're going to be pretty quick. Nick Reiner is fuming inside an LA prison over how his family and famous friends have left him to rot after his arrest for allegedly slaughtering his filmmaker father Rob and producer mom Michelle, according to insiders who say the accused killer is now planning a revenge tell-all to even the score. In a shocking twist, an insider confides that the troubled 32-year-old wants, quote, to lift the lid on his parents' sordid secrets he was exposed to as a privileged Hollywood kid and offer his side of the story, detailing why his parents were butchered in their own bed. So dumb. The insider adds Nick wants to name as many names and cause as much embarrassment as he possibly can. So, blah, 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 blah. First of all, written in such a tabloid style. And secondly, just shut up. Who cares? Just shut up. I'm sorry I even brought it up. I'm just going to close that tab and pretend like it never happened. So dumb. It is kind of a thing, though, where we're in the dead zone in this case, right? We're waiting for more news, and we're getting nothing. So those guys, those are your headlines.
True crime headlines.
Okie dokie, let me read your comments. Marie, hitting the nail on the head. Unchained Melody was in the movie Ghost. How could you forget that? It made every young man want to take up pottery. It became so popular. Woo! That was a scene, man. That was a scene. Diane Ferris says, I just finished To Kill a Mockingbird. Page Turner and tearjerker. Boy, is it. Dill was based on Truman Capote. I didn't know that. We'll be seeing the play this Sunday. I did not know that Dill was based on Truman Capote. Huh. Scotch's mom says, a lot of Journey songs were the soundtrack to my college years, 82 to 88. Open Arms. Open Arms has got to be the best dance, like closer, right? The last slow dance, last slow song of the dance. Journey. Ah, yeah. Yes, indeed. Garth B. Nutt. REO Speedwagon song, I Want to Keep on Loving You, brings back memories when hubby and I were dating. We will be married 44 years in July. Good on ya. Good job, Garth B. Nutt. That's awesome. Diane says Toronto has the Hockey Hall of Fame. Awesome. And Becky comes in. Oh, let's see. Who came in with Bon Jovi? Somebody said Bon Jovi, though I missed it. Yes, Heidi. Heidi, not Heidi. Heidi, not Heidi says all 5 charges guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Tina May, what an amazing day yesterday. Indeed. Yep, Eric's birthday is May 13th, and that is the day that they're going to do sentencing. Looks like I think that was coincidental. Mary says, I love the group Journey. I saw them. Alexander says Bon Jovi is the best. Yeah, never say goodbye. That's a good one. That's a good one, guys. That's a good one. Okay, we have got to pay this off. We got to pay this off. We hit our goal. Now, I want to make sure that I mean, we ended up with 13 super chats today. Thank you, everybody. I think I may have missed one. If I change my screen, I'm not going to be able to get my highlights, but I'm going to change it anyway, just because I want to make sure that I get this one in here from Diane. I don't think that we got that one. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate all of you who provided those super chats and super stickers today. Okay, what are we doing here? Let me bring it back up to the top. Let me give you this. Let me reintroduce the subject.
This conversation is brought to you by Once Upon a Trial, a new children's book by Corey Richens' ghostwriter. The reviews are in. The New York Crimes calls Once Upon a Trial, what the huh? And the Washington Compost says a bold choice was made, repeatedly. Read the book Absurdist describes as a bedtime story that somehow requires a cross-examination. Once Upon a Trial, available exclusively in evidence lockers near you.
Okay, here I have in my hands the manuscript. This is the manuscript. It hasn't been published yet. This is going to be the first time. Let's bring up. Let's make the screen pretty here. Okay. Once Upon a Trial by Corey Richens' ghostwriter. Once upon a time, there was a woman who liked big things, big plans, big houses, big ideas, very big ideas. One day she found a house, but this was not a normal house. It was a very, very big house. So big it felt silly. So big it was not even finished. Parts of it were still empty. Parts of it were still just wood. It was not a home. It was a project. And remember, this is a children's book, right? The plan was simple. Buy the house, fix the house, sell the house, make lots of money. Easy. There was just one tiny problem. The house cost a lot of money. Fixing it would cost even more money, and the money was not really there. In most stories, this is where someone says, maybe we should stop. But no one said that. Instead, things got strange. There were talks about drugs. Ugh, for a kid's book, talking about drugs. Okay, there were talks about drugs, not small drugs. Not the kind you take when you have a cold, very strong drugs, the kind that make doctors go quiet, the kind people whisper about, the kind that can stop a heart. Then one night there was a drink, just a drink, nothing special. Kiddos, little kiddos. She's talking about alcohol here. I'm assuming that Corey Richens' ghostwriter is a she. I shouldn't just assume that. Could be he. I don't know. We don't drink alcohol as children. You wait until you're grown up, and actually just never do it. I at 50 years old, I'm 50 years sober. That's correct. Okay, continuing. Then one night there was a drink. Just a drink, nothing special, nothing to worry about. Eric was there at home with someone he trusted. He drank it. Uh-oh. Later that night, he got very sick. So sick, he could not wake up. So sick, his body could not fight it. And by morning, Eric was gone. He did not get to tell his story. He did not get to ask questions. He did not get another day. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Now, you might think everything would stop. You might think people would slow down. You might think someone would say, wait. But no, things moved very fast. The big, unfinished house, that was in a question. The big, unfinished house bought right away, the very next day. Signed, done. A giant house with no plan and no money to finish it. But now it was hers. And then something even stranger happened. A book came out. A children's book about being sad, about losing someone. A soft, kind, gentle book. At the same time, another story was growing. Not in a book, not with pictures. This story was made of facts, messages, money, questions, lots of questions. Soon, everyone went to a courtroom. That's where stories go to be checked. In that room, the story changed. It stopped being neat. It stopped being pretty, because facts do not care about stories. Facts do not care about nice words. Facts do not care about how things look. And in the end, there was no big surprise, no twist, no magic ending, just an answer. So many pages. And far away from the big house and the plans and the book, there were people who were still hurting, people who did not get a happy ending. So this story does not end with, and they lived happily ever after. It ends like this. Be careful of stories that sound too nice. Be careful of plans that do not make sense. And be very, very careful who you trust to tell a story. That is Once Upon a Trial by Corey Richens' ghostwriter. Now, I have to say, Ms. Richens, maybe she just didn't have a lot of choices. I don't think that was all that great of a story. I don't even think that was a very good ghostwriter. I think maybe an editor. Well, it's a manuscript. We should give her that, or him. I don't know who the writer is. Ghostwriter. We should give them the benefit of the doubt. This hasn't seen an editor yet. It's just a manuscript that I got because of my, my connections to the publishing world. Goodness. A couple things before we go. And thank you guys for the live chats, or the super chats. I want to real quick also take some time to thank everybody who has been sending me support through the website. So grateful. I'm so happy to see new patrons. I need to get more content up on Patreon. I will work hard on that. People who are dropping me tips, dropping me PayPal, and those who are, buying Autumn a coffee. That's an important button right there. She's our lead moderator. She leads the crew. And if you can find it in your heart and in your wallet to buy Autumn a coffee, I would deeply appreciate that. But thank you all who listen on Spotify, who are channel members. those of you who watch, like, share, and subscribe, deeply, deeply appreciate that. And this is where you can do it. There's a link in the description to my video, or to my website. If you click on the little fishy up in the upper right hand corner, that will take you to the fish tank where we hang out on Facebook. You are always cordially invited to join us there. What a terrific time that I've spent with you guys tonight. I'm so thankful that you would do that. After I'm finished here, I'm going to be uploading the video to Spotify. Remember, if you're on the Rewatch crew, Robin, did you not let me know, or did I miss it? The light has not been on in the background. Oh, there it is. That all is well in the world. Okay. But what I was saying is, if you're in the Rewatch crew and you use Spotify, you can rewatch on Spotify, and that would really help the channel. That would really help me. Spotify just pays a lot more than YouTube. Is really what it boils down to. So if you have it, if that's you, don't change your habits for me. But if you are on Spotify and your Rewatch crew, watching on Spotify really, really helps. Tomorrow we will be back again, 6 p.m. Eastern time, right here on this channel. Until then, I hope to see you over in the fish tank. And if not, I will see you tomorrow. And until then, I bid you adieu. Thank you very much for spending time with me tonight. And take care. Good night. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.